Hey, what's up, everybody? My name is Tyler Adolfo. I'll give you some quick information about myself. I'm 25 years old. I live in a small town in Massachusetts. And the reason you clicked on this video is I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder. And I want to talk about how this has affected my life, how it has completely turned my life upside down. So I already had some diagnosis to begin with. I've been diagnosed with schizoaffective, but it didn't seem to affect me that much growing up as a kid, at least not to the extent and degree to which bipolar would end up affecting me. 522 days ago, October 27th, 2021, I was hospitalized in a neighborhood near my college at around midnight. And I was hospitalized because I was, making frantic phone calls, posting bizarre things on social media that were completely nonsensical and completely out of the ordinary for who I am, a very organized, structured person who wouldn't make such statements and act so irrationally normally. But that's what happened. Some friends called the authorities out of concern for myself and my well-being, and some police officers came and picked me up near the campus pond, and I ended up in the psych ward for 5 days, and I ultimately ended up getting out November 2nd. I was not put on any medication. The mania state that I was in only intensified and got significantly worse, in my opinion, and there's a lot of evidence to support that. I'm normally a straight A student. I ended up failing all of my classes. Just 2 semesters away from graduation, I ended up failing all of my classes while in this state of mania, while being hyper ecstatic, being exuberant about every single possible thing. I ended up losing my job downtown as well, and the social media post that got me hospitalized to begin with only exacerbated and got worse also, and continued to embarrass myself online, making all kinds of, again, bizarre statements completely out of the ordinary for myself. And it's still embarrassing to this day to look back at. I still experience a lot of regret about these things. And these things were actually violent, hateful, antagonistic at times. And as a result, social media accounts that I had for over a decade of my life pretty much all got banned, completely banned off Instagram, Snapchat, TikTok. And my Facebook, I ultimately ended up self-terminating much later on, but I had 3 of my social media accounts, my main social media accounts, completely removed. So lots of memories that I had documented on there just completely gone. Moving on, and kind of in line with that, social media posts played a big part in me being expelled from my frat. I was in a frat in college, and I ended up getting an email from Nationals saying that I was expelled for conduct unbecoming of a gentleman, which would be accurate, possibly an understatement to say the least, given how I was talking and acting on social media, and even worse, talking and acting in person with people. But things only got worse from there. Being expelled from a frat is not the end of the world, or so you would think. It's been tough on me. I miss all my friends in college. I miss the people that I used to talk to. But it's tough to rebuild bridges that have been destroyed in the way that I destroyed them, I guess you could say. I ended up being arrested while in a state of mania. Spent 5 days in prison and was charged with 2 felonies. And I'm not going to go further on that. I'm going to save that for another video for another time, but was charged with 2 felonies as a result of a fight that had taken place near campus. And this was while in a state of mania. So far, like, these are just some of the consequences, and the situation just completely spiraled out of control. Mania is just a terrible feeling. In the moment, it feels like you're on top of the world, right? You're just ecstatic about everything. You have all this energy. You feel like you're superhuman. but it couldn't be further from the truth. And I learned this the hard way because as a result of the arrest I faced, the arrest report was sent over to the university, and just 2 semesters away from graduation, my university expelled me. I am no longer a student at the University of Massachusetts Amherst, and I was 2 semesters away from getting my communication degree. Very, very unfortunate situation. I tried to appeal, but the appeal was not granted. While I appealed it, I was actually still in a state of mania. I had only been on medication for about a month at the time that I tried to appeal the expulsion from my university. So we're 5 minutes in, and we already have all these crazy consequences from bipolar disorder 522 days ago. And physically, probably one of the worst things of all is I'm not physically myself anymore. I went from 180 pounds from the time of the first diagnosis, October 27th, 2021, to 315 pounds. And today, April 2023. And I've kind of stabilized at 315. I've been here for a little bit now. And I think a large part of that actually just has to do with my daily life of being someone with bipolar disorder. I used to go outside all the time. But right now I'm in the depressive phase and I just don't have the energy. I can't summon the willpower to get myself out the door and do anything. I'm scared to go outside. I regret so much. I'm afraid of everything. With the exception of like a few appointments that I go to, there's really not much that I do to get out of the house anymore. And that's despite being on 5 medications. Which I wonder, to what extent those played a role in the amount of weight that I gained. Because, I was a healthy guy. I was 180 pounds. I did track in high school. I ran every single day, even after graduating high school and in college. I ran more than most people that's for sure. But it completely stopped. I don't do it anymore, as you can tell. You don't have to you don't have to hear it from me to know that's the case. I lay in bed practically all the time. This was more the case in the first few months of recovery. So while I was manic, I was out and about and everywhere. But in the few months of recovery, where I was starting medications, that's when, when the mania dies down, you're way up here and it starts to drop, and then you no longer have that energy. You no longer have that superhuman feeling. You no longer have that ecstatic belief about everything. And so you start to recognize reality for what it is, and reality is not what you wanted it to be. And it's hard to look back and say, wow, I said these things, I did these things. Where do I possibly go from here? How can I possibly go outside and show my face after these things that I said, after these things that I've done to the people I care about, to the people I love? And that's just the tough reality of it. Laying in bed. Sleeping when you can, but you can only do so much of that. It really doesn't allow you to... Your body doesn't allow you to just sleep permanently. You can only sleep so much, but you still lay in bed a lot. That's what I found to be the case with me. It's just a way to pass the time as you sit there in a never-ending train of negative self-talk and negative thoughts, and you get bombarded with it. The mental demons inside your mind just never show mercy. Bipolar is by far the toughest situation I've had to deal with in my life. I don't know where to go from here. I don't have a job anymore, as I said. I still don't. I haven't applied anywhere. I'm basically living off social programs in order to survive, which in the past I would be so completely ashamed of. I would never even consider it as a possibility, but believe me, when you need something to eat or drink, it's a lot of things you normally wouldn't do, things that you wouldn't be accustomed to, you quickly adapt and recognize the reality of the situation, and you do what's necessary for you to survive. So, and there's still a shame with it. That I still feel shameful that that's the case. I don't want this to be the case. I don't want to be in this situation. I'm just depressed, and that's why I'm making this video. Is the truth is that I feel like my future is looking very bleak. It's tough to know when things are going to change, when I'm going to get that small victory that help propel me forward and actually make something of myself. I have the ability to do so. I've experienced so much success in my life. I know that I have the intellectual capacity to do something meaningful and fulfilling, but bipolar creeps in and it makes you feel like you're nothing. You have no sense of purpose. I used to have a huge social life. I now have no sense of belonging whatsoever. Um, Future wise, I can't even transfer my credits at the moment from the university. Part of that has to do with the expulsion and not canceling of classes, and it's a huge bill that I have to pay in order to even transfer credits. So even if I get out of the depressive state I was in, where I could be like, yeah, I'm ready to go back to college, get back into things, I'm in the right mood, got the right attitude, um, it wouldn't matter because there's a huge bill I have to pay just to be able to get my official transcript and transfer it. So there's that situation as well. Um, Currently waiting for a outcome from Social Security. I applied for my bipolar disorder at the recommendation of my therapist and uh, clinical psychiatric, whatever you want to call it, person who prescribes you things. A prescriber, we'll call it a prescriber. Um, at the therapist and prescriber's recommendation, I applied for Social Security disability for bipolar disorder. From what I read, 2 out of 3 people with bipolar get approved, so it's possible I get approved. But like even this is I feel like a lose-lose situation for me because if I don't get approved, it'll suck because I still have like virtually nothing to live off of. If I get approved, there's a greater sense of shame, but then there's also, my attitude of I've always wanted to do great things. I don't want this to be my life permanently. I don't want to be stuck in that phase forever. I want to be able to still do something. So it's not easy by any stretch of the imagination. But that's the gist of it. Those are the consequences I've experienced. Those are, the things that I do in my daily life in order to cope with bipolar disorder. There's really not a whole much else to it. I sometimes think about my future, but doing so makes me very scared. It makes me petrified. It makes me terrified. Because what if I get in a position where I'm in a great standing again, exceeding my standards, meeting my standards, and I just collapse because I have another manic episode. One episode of mania did this to me. 23 years of life without much of an issue. Some turbulence here and there, but then mania just comes in and completely derails me, throws my life for a spin. So that's my story, my experience with bipolar disorder. I kept this broad as possible because I want to go into specifics on each of the areas I touched on in greater detail. If I had done that this video would be like 3 hours long. I'm not kidding. Which, maybe I'll do a long form video like that someday. But today's not the day. But that's my story. I want to share it. If you feel comfortable sharing yours, please share yours in the comments below. What tips do you have for coping? I'd love to hear your stories. And, I guess we just got to keep fighting and doing what we can. Hope my story helped you understand a little bit about what bipolar is like if you don't know what bipolar is. If you can relate at all, I feel you there. But regardless of whether you have bipolar or not, thank you everyone so much for watching. My name is Tyler Adolfo. Please like and hit that subscribe button below. Thank you and have a wonderful day.